I was up early doing, farm work, my father finally, when I was a junior, said, okay, you can play. Back then we had football, baseball, basketball, and track. And he said, you can play one sport, and it has to be in the fall because crops are in, and it was football. So I couldn't even play until I was a junior and a senior. I got to play those 2 years because I was working, and
Sure.
so I didn't, it's not an excuse, but, I never did my homework, so I'd fail on my test. And so on graduation week, Mike Healy was our principal, and he had me down and just told me, he said, you're not going to get your diploma because, you failed too many classes. And I said to him, I said, I'm turning 18 and I'm enlisting in the Marine Corps because I didn't know what else to do, honestly. Plus, I really thought, if I really am a failure, I have to prove to myself, if I can make it into the Marine Corps, maybe I'm not that failure that
Right.
I'm beginning to believe I am. Plus, I wanted to serve. I believed it was an honor and a privilege to serve. So the next day, I get called back down to his office, and he said, I thought about what you said, and you are enlisting. I said, yes, sir. He said, all right, we'll give you your diploma. And I'm not proud of that. The thing is I'm 18 years old, and 6 months later, I had never been anywhere. So, you have this farm boy, never been anywhere in his life, and now all of a sudden you get on a plane. I remember looking at planes flying over going, my gosh, I wonder what it's like to fly on a plane. And you get on a plane and they fly you to California, you go through basic training, and 6 months later you're in a war. You're 18 years old. It just, I came home.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be here, probably like my father. But I instinctively, I think I learned about surviving from my father. And 393 days, so 51 years ago right now, I was right in the middle of my tour of Vietnam. And there's only been two other Marines besides myself who really the whole tour went through and came back because it was just constant, I mean, it's so different today than back then. Today they train as a unit, and you train, you deploy as a unit, Back then, I didn't know one other Marine on the plane flying over. They were just replacing bodies. And it's sad how the whole thing ended, but I'm here. And then I struggled after I got back. Survivor's guilt, I guess is what you call it. It was really hard for me to try to move beyond the guilt of why I'm home, and so many others weren't. How the war ended was really sad to see that. And I ended up making some really bad choices. So I'm 26. I'm now on the street, feeling sorry for myself. And I remember one night when it was just storming out. It was raining and lightning and thundering, and I'm like, gosh, it wasn't long ago. I was in a foxhole, and that thunder was incoming, and the lightning was, flashes of the rounds exploding. I said, the worst is behind me, and I have to move on, and it's not up to someone else to take care of me. I'm very capable of doing it myself. I need to get out of this hole I've dug for myself and get a job. 2 years later, I dug myself out of that. And now, all the men and women, are veterans. There's 1% of our population. I mean, you think about that, 1% of our population volunteer and serve. And I look at some of these young 18-year-olds today, and I'm like, my God, they seem so young, but that's how, the age I was at, but they're doing it for the right reason, and yet they're responsible for all these freedoms. We all, including myself, I don't get up often enough and say, hey, thank you, God, for all the sacrifices that have been made so that I can enjoy the life I live. I can live where I want to live. I can choose to live, wherever, or if I have a family, where I we send our children to school, or if I worship, where I worship. Even those are all freedoms because of the men and women who serve.
What are the sorts of things that you would want them to know from your heart about your appreciation for what they've done for the country?
Well, first and foremost, to thank them and their families for, giving back a big part of their life, whether they made a career out of it or, they served for, 4, 5, 6 years. And whether you've been deployed or not, many of them have been, and they understand and they see the ugliness of wars, and, it changes you forever. You carry that with you forever. We owe so much to them, and I don't think we often enough do enough to support them. And they're not here asking for handouts. They're just not. In fact, a lot of them deserve more than what they get. And so what you're doing, what the Tribune's doing, it's not only recognizing certain individuals, it's representing all men and women who serve. And it helps, the community say, hey, geez, thank you. I know I hear more and more and more people, young people, when they know you serve, say, hey, thank you for your service. That means a lot. When someone comes up and pats you on the back or takes your hand and says, hey, thank you for serving, that means so much. And that's what I want to say to all of them. Thank you. Thank you so much. The sacrifices and the families, even as a young man, what your mother or father went through. I had no idea what my mother was going through while I was gone. Truly, until I came home and saw how she aged and her hair had just turned white because of her worrying. So again, they could have gone in many different directions with their life. And I would say none of you would ever say you regretted serving. Thank you.